Welcome everyone to this week's edition of #Toe2Toe. I'm Andy Clarke, and joining me this week is Leon Mckenzie, and we are in the Peacock gym in Canning Town, East London. This is one of the gyms in the capital. Fighters, all sorts of fighters, all shapes, sizes, different levels of ability come through here all of the time, and it's a place that you're familiar with. Today's probably a bit more of a comfortable outing here for you than it has been in the past, because you used to come down here and spar Anthony Yard.
That's right, so I'm really pleased to be sitting here right now, because the times that I sparred with Anthony were an experience in itself. Fantastic talent, and I had well, done a lot of sparring here, not just against Anthony, but we've done a lot of sparring, and I learned, I used to go over here sparring myself. You know, my dad wasn't with me most of the time, so it was, you know what, really put the gloves on and you're alone sort of thing. So it was good. It was really, really good for the progress in boxing.
It's that kind of a place, isn't it? Because you walk in here, it's busy, there's people doing all sorts, every inch of space is being used, and everybody just has to rub along together. There's no kind of pecking order. You know, people will just look at you, classic boxing gym scenario, and just think, okay, let's see what you've got. Yeah,
it's all eyes on you. You come here, I learned to fight. In many places, not just my own gym, but you know, when you come to places like here and you've got talents like Anthony sort of kind of going through the motions with you sparring but doing a bit of damage, it really does open up your eyes to a lot. But again, there's a lot of pedigree here.
Well, we've got plenty of questions for you. You've had such an interesting career: Premier League footballer, super middleweight contender, filmmaker, boxing coach, trainer these days, all sorts. And we saw you at the weekend. We saw you at the weekend up in Liverpool. This first question from Rory ties into that. Who's in your stable at the minute, and have you got any future stars? Really good performance from Philip Bowes on Saturday.
Well, Philip Bowes is the only one I look after in the respect of, from a training point of view. I'm alongside Barry Smith. I've come in to alter a few things, concentrate on the fitness side of it, and help development with the technique and stuff in respect of, you know, Barry does more of what he does, and I do what I do. He is really come on, and that's not just because I've come into the equation. He's just at a stage now where he believes in himself, and you can see the performance on Saturday was a fantastic boxing display, and yeah, he's really. I'm looking forward to what's next.
What's interesting with him, I think, is that when you look at him and you realise he's 34, it makes you kind of rub your eyes a bit, because he looks really fresh, and he's got that really good kind of southpaw technique where he's going to be a problem for anybody, really. So I think, you know, there is a chance he could come up on the rail in that division and you know, move further than that Commonwealth title.
Phil's IQ is fantastic. You know, even when we're doing pads together, his mind is so like up there, to the point of like he's always like thinking ahead, and he'll say to me, "Oh, but Lee, like let me just try this," and da da da. And we're always working on things all the time. His IQ is unbelievable. So yeah, he's definitely although it's a little bit late on. Honestly, you can see that, you know, the miles are still on the clock. He's very capable.
Well, talking of boxing IQs, this one's from Charles, and he wants to know if you could coach any up-and-coming boxer, who would it be and why?
If I could coach any up-and-coming boxer, who would it be and why? I think if anyone that stands out for me, being that I've had the experience in sharing the ring with him, I feel like Anthony Yard, with the talent that he has, and most haven't really seen the levels really, I would say it would have to be him in the respect of what he brings, what I've seen.
That's interesting. I think that's really interesting, because there's a lot of scrutiny on Anthony Yard, because he's now mandatory for Kovalev, and because people keep saying, well, he hasn't fought anyone, how can you say he's this and how can you say he's that? And the only people who do know are the people who are with him every day, and the people who've been in with him. And you're one of them. You're one of the kind of in crowd on this one, and there aren't that many of you.
No, I mean, and this, you know what, you're never going to please everyone. Everyone wants to see results. Anthony, if you look at it on paper, he's still fighting people that are still relevant and still have very good records, but again, everyone wants to see results in respect of the big fights. And you know, as they always say, it's all about timing, and they want to bring him through how they want to bring him through. I just know that Anthony is a special talent, and you can only identify that when obviously either sharing the ring with him and actually observing properly. I would like to think my boxing IQ is pretty up there in what I'm seeing anyway. So yeah, I look forward to him getting the big fights and us really seeing whatever, you know, that's proving the people and certain people that doubt wrong.
Okay, well, just one more on him, because we do have a question from Des, and it's a question that people are putting all the time now, and we'll get an answer at some point. Who wins, Yarde Buatsi?
Buatsi is another fantastic talent and fighter. And actually, funny enough, we've done a couple of rounds with him this side of my age, not so long ago, helping Dwayne Sinclair. He's conducts himself properly. He's a proper professional, very spiteful and accurate in his punching. Very, very gifted as well. I feel going with the two, my honest opinion, I feel that Anthony just tips this for me, just in the respect of, I think he'll be able to find Buatsi more so. And Anthony's not easy to hit, shall I say. So it's interesting. It's a hard one to actually really pick, because I think they're both fantastic talents. But if I was to put my money on it, I reckon Anthony just tips it.
Okay, interesting. We all hope that we'll see that. I don't think we're going to see it anytime particularly soon, and there's no real reason why we should. You know, if they keep progressing as we hope they will, it'll just cook a bit and hopefully become an even bigger fight a little bit down the line. So here's a question from Joey. What do you miss most since retiring?
Competing. I miss retire. I miss the whole, you know, whether it's walking out to have a fight, or it's walking out onto a pitch to prepare to get into a massive game. I miss scoring goals. I miss the training aspect, the levels of what I once was, and unfortunately I just can't really get to those levels anymore, training wise or whatever. So there's certain elements that I do miss, but very happy to be retired, especially when I train sometimes.
Well, this links up to a question from Khan, and he wants to know what do you find difficult about pre-fight build-up, but I guess we could kind of expand that out to, you know, maybe that's one thing that you don't miss is taking yourself to that place, whether it was football or whether it was boxing.
I think with boxing, my last two title fights, you know, we were at the levels of someone of my age with no sort of amateur experience, but to come in and fight at those levels, weight was, I struggled with the weight a little bit. The last couple just started finding it a little bit hard, metabolism changes, and I was holding on to more, you know, I don't know, but I just got it wrong for the last couple, and that really affected everything. Recovery, wasn't recovering the same, whether that be sparring and stuff. So I knew we was close to, you know, kind of maybe calling it a day, but 22 years of elite levels, of 18 years in football and another 4 years or so with boxing at a very good level, just think the body was just like, I've had enough. So yeah, definitely dieting, I don't really miss that.
No, I can't say I blame you there. A lot of boxing in the family, of course. And Mark wants to know, what advice did Duke give you, Clinton as well, your dad, when you turned pro and when you decided to hang them up?
Just enjoying myself, and I've always been a very good professional in how I've trained and dedicated myself to be the best I could be. For the short space that I was in boxing, I just feel like I wasn't sort of on Sky every month, and no one sort of gave me anything to help me come through, regardless of my dad and uncle. And I just felt like I'd done enough to prove that I could mix it with very good fighters and prove that I can fight myself. And that was, in the long run, the most important thing with the time scale that I had, because I didn't have much time, being that I jumped in pretty much at 35 years old. So.
Well, those two, I'm sure your uncle and your dad would have been a big inspiration to you. But another question here from Mog: who inspires you? Could be football, could be boxing, could be anything. Who
inspires me?
Yeah.
And does that have to be within sport?
No, not at all. Could be anything.
My children. My children inspire me. They give me a purpose to keep trying and keep going, and just to be the best I can be. Probably they're the ones that come to my mind.
So a question from Mohim, and it's been well documented. The struggles you've had with depression. It's something which people are talking about a lot more now. Mental health is much more to the fore. It's a much healthier debate these days, and you've been instrumental in that, I would say. And you're putting the finishing touches on a pretty impressive documentary film which you put together and you're bringing out. So quite a broad question from Mohim, but what's the best way to battle depression?
Yeah, I mean, with depression, I've always found it to be a bit of a fight in my own life, and I've tried to educate myself the best way possible, and most of that has literally been from speaking and doing what I've done, because I've been doing this for a number of years. So I go all over the UK now and speak about it. And for someone that is struggling, is to just find it within yourself to try and step forward and make the choice to try and get the right help, because there's so many avenues now where we can get help. Make that phone call, whether it's to a loved one, a friend, and start projecting your feelings in respect of where you are. And that's the first step for healing, just to try and get yourself into a position where you want to help yourself, because it's very hard to sort of answer that question in full detail without kind of really breaking everything down. The reasons to why one is suffering, because everyone has many ways and forms of going through that. So please, just try and, there's so many things, whether it's my own company, Mind Reposition, Calm Mind. There's so many charities that do provide help and right resources to make those calls. But I say your first protocol is speaking to a loved one, and if you don't have that, maybe someone that's in a professional manner.
So just tell us about the film that you've made, that you're just finishing off, because I remember last year I follow you on social media, and just looking up one day and just seeing a picture of Leon in a room with a rock. I'm thinking this is pretty epic. I mean, how did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, that's again, I've been doing this film 10 Count. It's a documentary which is about myself and football, football, boxing, and I've incorporated mental health awareness into the documentary, which is me interviewing other athletes, so many, just to name a few, like Frank Bruno, Ricky Hatton, Alan Shearer. There's so many athletes that I've interviewed, and I actually contacted Dwayne Johnson, who literally, like, 2 o'clock in the morning, reached back out to me, and I was just like, wow, is this like actually happening? He actually got back to me. So his manager contacted me and said, look, Dwayne's seen looked into your story, and thinks he believes in what you're doing. He thinks it's fantastic. He wants to fly you over to LA. So basically, he flew me and my team over to LA. I went onto the Ballers set where he was filming. And,
it's a great show, Ballers.
Yeah. And that was quite an amazing day in itself. And he gave me a good hour and an incredible interview, which obviously being that side, I was an interviewing a man that is just totally the real deal, very giving person, and I'm really looking forward to when this film arrives. Obviously, we're in the distribution stages at the moment, but I don't have a date of to when and how and what's when it's going to come, but it will be here.
Okay, well, let's just finish off with a few quick-fire questions. So quick on the draw with these. First one from Darragh. Would you rather be a Champions League winner or undisputed super middleweight champion?
That's such a hard question for me. It's a hard question. I really couldn't answer it because they're both sort of fantastic in itself. If I was going to go, I played 18 years within football, so I would probably go for the first one because I'd played so many years in football. So winning a Champions League medal would be quite extraordinary. But boxing, on the other hand, I feel like if I would have started younger, I would have had definitely a more serious opportunity in maybe winning something major.
Well, I'm not sure this one's going to be any easier. This is from Carl. Which feels best, a knockout or scoring a winning goal?
Scoring a winning goal. I actually,
that was quick.
Yeah, do you know why? Because when I first made my professional debut in boxing, I actually said, oh my God, this is like the best feeling ever, because that was like my first sort of stoppage. But as time went on and I started to understand boxing more, I was like, no, you can't beat scoring goals. And you actually can't. Like, scoring goals is unbelievable. I used to love doing it. You could see the way I scored and celebrated.
Yeah, no, I believe you all day long. So this is from Josh, two-parter. Toughest player you ever faced on the football pitch?
Marceau Desailly. Desailly. He was a serious guy. Just I remember one time I was playing against Chelsea and I was actually at Peterborough at the time, I think, and we was in a cup tie, and I remember I'd done something. I sort of elbowed him or something, and he just sort of grabbed my arm. He was really strong. Grabbed my arm and he said, "If you do that again, I will break you." Mate, I hid.
It's like a Rocky line, isn't it?
I hid the rest of the game. Yeah. I hid the rest of the game. And what was the other?
Well, the second part would be toughest boxer you faced.
Toughest boxer I faced? Toughest would be probably Cello, in the respect of just that fight. He just took some serious shots. It
is an incredible fight, that, against Cello Render
for the Southern area. Serious shots, and he just, you know what, experience shined through in the end, and I just didn't have enough in me to. I was exhausted because I've given him my all, and that's why I could retire the next day, because I knew that I'd given everything. I left everything there. So, you know, it's the way it is. It's boxing, and he went on to win the Southern Area title.
Well, I saw him a few weeks ago. Actually, he does some work for Boxing Futures.
That's right. Yeah,
a charity I support, and he's retired now, and he's loving it too. He's very happily retired, and he had a lot of really complimentary things to say about you.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Amazing how, when you shared that kind of ring time and that kind of battle, that you emerge from it with this kind of bond. Really common thing in boxing. Leon, great to see you.
No, great.
Thanks very much for your time. That's it for today. The podcast will be coming from right here, the Peacock Gym in Canning Town. So give that a listen later on, and we'll catch you again next time.
Sky Sports. Feel it all.